Welcome to ForexTV.com. Today is Friday, January 16th. I'm Kathleen Reddington with your New York Forex Market Buzz. The yen falls to the majors and the dollar slips to the euro. And now for a look at the latest headlines from the CEP News Desk. U.S. consumer sentiment moved unexpectedly higher in January, according to a preliminary report from Reuters and the University of Michigan. The headline Consumer Sentiment Index rose to 61.9 from a final reading of 60.1 in December, despite expectations for a decline to the 59 level by a survey of economists. U.S. industrial production remained in negative territory in December. The Federal Reserve report, which cited a 2% month-over-month decline in the headline measure, the consensus forecast was for a negative 1% drop. Net long-term TIC flows came in below the consensus forecast, totaling negative $21.7 billion in November. Total TIC flows for the month rose to $56.8 billion. Economists had been expecting net long-term flows to rise to $1.5 billion compared to the previous month's downwardly revised negative $0.4 billion figure. Today we are joined by Vasily Serebriakov of Wells Fargo. Hi Vasily, how are you today?
Hi, I'm good, thanks.
After all the euro weakness we've been seeing in the past couple of days, we're now seeing the yen decline to month lows on the euro. Why the sudden turnaround, and what's your euro-yen strategy?
Well, we're attributing today's move with somewhat of a rebound in risk appetite after the move that we saw from the U.S. Treasury, the Fed, and FDIC to provide assistance to Bank of America. There was also some positive news from the Senate and the release of the remainder of the TARP package. However, judging from recent rebounds in risk appetite, we would not expect this to be sustainable. So our overall view on the euro, for example, is still negative, both against the dollar and the Japanese yen.
All right, and speaking of that, the yen is also slipping to the Kiwi and the Aussie. I want to know what your strategy is for them.
The Kiwi and the Aussie are the classic risk appetite currencies, so it's perhaps not surprising to see them rebounding today. I think we also have to take into account the extent of the recent declines in those currencies. However, what's notable is that commodity prices have not really reacted that much today, and given signs of the global economic downturn deepening in recent weeks, we expect commodity prices to remain weak. So we would be sellers on any rallies of currencies such as the Australian and the New Zealand dollar.
And touching on something you said earlier, the dollar is also slipping to the euro, even though the reports today weren't all that bad from the U.S. What is moving the dollar today?
Well, again, I think the swings in risk appetite in the equity markets are the primary drivers of the dollar. Economic data hasn't had that much of an impact. If we look recently, bad U.S. economic data hasn't really weighed on the dollar, and today we're seeing somewhat of a better set of numbers, but the dollar is weaker. So again, I think there is still somewhat of a disconnect between fundamental data and currencies, whereas equity market sentiment and global risk aversion in general remain the primary drivers.
All right, and we learned today that headline inflation is on the verge of becoming negative, but could be stopped if oil and commodity prices stabilize. Do you think we're going to see stabilization of them anytime soon?
Yes, I think the headline inflation is certainly remarkably volatile in response to fluctuations in energy prices. I think what's more interesting and also notable is, however, the rapid decline in the core inflation, which is last down to 1.8% year on year. And I think that's really a testament to the weakening economy. So in that sense, we would be watching the core inflation readings a little bit closer at this point to judge the health of this economy.
All right, Vasily, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
This has been your New York Forex Market Buzz with Vasily Serebriakov of Wells Fargo. I'm Kathleen Reddington. Join us later this afternoon, 4 p.m. exchange, right here on ForexTV.com.